Having been in front of audiences for 30 years now, off and on, one of the questions I get from people that are wanting to be speakers or are going to be giving a presentation, or even like a talk at a wedding, business presentation, if people are wanting to have private coaching on this, or for those of you that might be coming through to our Communicating with Impact event, which is happening again. You'll be pleased to know this year in April we've got the first one of the year happening after a lot of questions from people. Just literally had a WhatsApp yesterday saying, are you running another one of your CWI events? And the answer is we finally decided to do another one in April, which is exciting. So one of the subject areas that comes up is when I'm speaking in front of, remember, Communicating with Impact isn't just about presenting to a large audience. It could be one-to-one, it could be a business meeting, it could be that you're going to see the bank manager to raise some funds for those of you that are entrepreneurs, investors, etc. Or it might be that you're talking at a charity event or a parents' evening, whatever. What are some of the things that, hi Nishma, what are some of the things that you need to do? So I'm here, I'm fairly relaxed at the moment, I've just driven up. What are 3 or 4 key tips that I think anyone watching this should be thinking about if you've got any form of presentation coming up in the next few days or the next week? So I've brought a few things that I do with me in terms of preparation. But if you said to me, what's one of the mistakes that people make as speakers or as somebody that's presenting, they tend to put a huge amount of emphasis on the presentation. Whereas for me, I actually think what's important is the preparation, because if you get the preparation correct, the presentation actually becomes amazing. So when I hear people say, oh yeah, I've got an event or I'm speaking next week, I'm going to throw some slides together or I'm going to throw some notes together on paper, my experience is what you get is an average to below average talk or presentation. It doesn't feel prepared, it doesn't feel articulated well, there's no clarity to the message, there's certainly no impact. And communicating with impact is singly one of the most important things for anyone delivering to an audience, and that includes here on a camera in front of, you know, however many people end up eventually watching this video. So social media, for example, is a massive subject area. That's why we've also included that in the Communicating with Impact program that I run, because when I did my first one, we didn't do that. But what we discovered was people saying, listen, this is great tools, but how do I get the message out through a camera? How do I get the message out literally through my hand to thousands of people watching me out there? So that's another thing that I've now incorporated into that particular program. So I've got 3 days ahead of me. And so when I come to the event, I'm very specific about what I do. So, I mean, as in I'm at the hotel here right now, I unpack my gear, I always get here earlier than I need to get here. And I get everything laid out, clothes, shoes, suit, all the stuff that you do not want to arrive at your presentation and think, oh, you know, especially if you're driving to it, where's my jacket, where's my blouse, what I was going to wear, my shoes, whatever. Like I came up with some pretty scraggy shoes. I've just been on site and then I've just put my other shoes on, but I have my shoes for presentation somewhere else here. It's ready for tomorrow. Everything has to be prepped, because the more prepped you are, the less stress on you when you end up going out to do the talk that you're doing. That's a massive tip, by the way, don't underestimate that. The other thing that I do personally is there's key things, like, I know it sounds silly, so I use a headset. Now that's something that you'll see me talk about more if you come join me on the communications event, because there's different types of headset. And as much as, yes, I could leave it in its case and tomorrow when I get up and get ready, I get it all out. But I just want to make sure it's good, it's unraveled, and it's just simple. There's just a methodology. I wake up in the morning, I go through the normal cleaning process, you know, you shower, brush teeth, etc., get dressed. That this goes on at a specific time. People laugh about me when things like this, but I tell you, if you systemize things, it becomes so much easier, which means it allows your brain to go into the talk that you're giving, the presentation you're giving, assuming you're using a microphone. Next thing is this, the presenter's wand, or as we know it, a clicker. This is the Logitech clicker. Does it work? Is it charged? Imagine I get up there tomorrow, I've got my audience in front of me, and I go, oh, excuse me a minute, I've got to plug it in, I've got to charge it. So simple exercise really. All I do is I just get my lead and I plug it in. And now what will happen is when I get up tomorrow, I don't have to think about that. It's already there, it's plugged in and it's good to go. So that's another thing. The clicker is a really important one for me. And I have a backup clicker as well, because I learned that mistake many, many years ago. The other big one, of course, is the laptop. Now, those of you that join me at CWI, the communications event, you're going to see very few slides, because that is such an intensive experience. We get people actually doing live the exercises around these 38 components that I teach. And so I pull the key components into the weekend. I say, right, this is what we're going to be covering. And I get you doing stuff as opposed to just following a set of slides. Whereas this weekend that I'm teaching on real estate, it's going to involve spreadsheets, examples of deals. You know, having been around, it's been rebranded recently, so been around the Asset Academy now for 15, 16, 17 years, and teaching it, what I've discovered is, as much as I can talk all day long on real estate, to show a deal, to have the numbers and stacked up and have the slides all set up in a specific way. So I'll probably spend the next 2 to 3 hours minimum just making some tweaks to the core slides. That's tonight. I'll probably be doing the same thing tomorrow night, and then the same thing Saturday night. Maybe not as long on Saturday night, because my slides deck for Sunday is very structured around business, for example. I'll be doing a lot on business in the morning. But the first 2 days will come a little bit out of my audience. So I've got to gauge my audience, and I can adjust my presentation around my audience. So I will always arrive and I'll have my slide. So don't creaky. Okay, so imagine if I'm in front of an audience like this, and then all these things come into play. If I'm actually at an event, I check things like that. I check a chair. Is it wobbling? I went to an event not so long ago where we had a high stool in front of the audience. When you got on it, it went... So anything like that I'm thinking about. My laptop, is it working? Is it functioning? Does it work properly? I normally do a test tonight on the projector as well to make sure that's good. So if you're not using laptops and you're not using microphones and you don't need clickers, that's fine. But do think about what you do need. And you know, in the 38 components that I teach in my mastery system, the CWI system, there's 3 key elements. There's you, there's them, and there's the environment. Now, inside of those 3 categories, there's these 38 elements, of which one of them is equipment. So equipment, do you need equipment for the presentation? So I'll be going through that. Now, the other thing I want to do tonight is I need to plan for anything that I anticipate may come up tomorrow, any changes that have happened in the market. So whenever you go to a meeting, you might have a set of slides or a presentation that you've got all set to go in your head, and you know, this is how I'm going to present. But if there's any changes in the subject matter that you're teaching, or there's been some news that could impact what you're saying, it's really important to have preparation for that. Obviously, with things like real estate, that could include an announcement from the government about buy-to-let landlords. It could be, an announcement on mortgage rates. It could be to do with interest rates. You know, I'm here representing Asset Academy. There's been a big change just recently where that branding has changed from a different company branding. So I also appreciate that going into my audience, there's going to be a little bit of anticipation. Sometimes people don't understand that. They see change as a negative thing. Actually, it's a really positive thing that's just happened recently. It's allowed us to have much more control, and there's an amazing new journey. And all the speakers and the trainers associated with it are excited because it gives us an opportunity to steer this forward and do something amazing. So from my perspective, I see it in a really positive way. But of course, if you're coming to an event, or you're going to buy a car, or you're going to a new school, taking your kids to a school and the name of the school's changed, or there's been a change of management, or the headmaster's changed of that company, or you read something in the news. I drive a Tesla, for example, and it's really fascinating. Now, I drive this Tesla. I've done 50, 60,000 miles in it. You know, there's more of them now than I've ever seen before. And yet, anything that comes out remotely from Elon Musk and it's not positive, all I get is people go, oh, you drive a Tesla? Yeah, I heard about Elon Musk. Like, the car is going to suddenly malfunction because of an announcement that Elon Musk made, or something that happened that was silly. Like, for example, just recently, you may see that he made this launch of this incredible truck-like vehicle, and it was an electric vehicle which is almost like a tank. And it was supposed to be designed in such a way that you could throw stones at it and all stuff like that. It's got a 500-mile range. And he did a test live on stage where he had somebody throw a stone at the window, showing that it actually could actually resist impact. Unfortunately, the window shattered. It didn't go through, so it was actually strong. But it just kind of cracked. And he went, oh, let's do that on the back. And apparently their share prices dipped before they came back up. But people were saying to me afterwards, oh my gosh, how do you feel about what happened with the incident on the stage? And I'm like, well, What's that got to do with my vehicle? But people's mindset is they associate certain things with certain circumstances that happen out in the market. So, for example, tonight I'll put some notes together to address that in front of my audience tomorrow. So you might be aware of some changes, you might have even heard some negative things. Family members or friends may have said this to you, but be aware this is the change and this is why it's really positive, and let people understand the circumstances. And it's the same for any presentation you're giving. If you're talking on behalf of a company that you work for and there's been an announcement in that company and you're going to pitch yourself to a client, make sure you're up to date on that and have something or some sort of evidence or explanation so they understand. Because often, for most of the time, when there's something happening out there that's negative and you're going to pitch your idea, your business, your concept to somebody, you want them to buy into your service or to support you or to fund you, whatever. If you don't have an answer, and an honest answer for what that circumstances is or what's happened, they're going to go, well, I don't trust you, or I'm not sure that I want to invest in your business. So for me, preparation is really important. Now, I don't have any concerns about that. I've been doing it a long time, and change happens all the time. This rebrand to me is amazing. But equally, I might walk into the room in a month's time and interest rates have gone up by 0.25%. I'm doing a property event, audience come in, and now they're not worried about the new brand, Asset Academy, or whatever it is. That's okay, we understand that's just a new brand. Now they're worried about interest rate changes. Oh my gosh, what about interest rates, Dr. Rowe? What do you think? We're really nervous. And that's natural for newbies and inexperienced people who are sitting in an audience, don't know the subject. So you've got to think whenever you're presenting to an audience or a one-to-one person. If you're watching this and you're a network marketer, for example, same thing. So, I say to the audience, well, interest rates have just gone up, but guess what? I have a feeling the reason they're doing that is that's a preparation for the next recession, because during a recession, they typically will bring the interest rates down. If interest rates are too low at the moment, there's nowhere to take them. So it kind of makes a natural, in my mind, I'm looking at what the banks are doing. They're fixing rates for a long period out into the future, very low. So a rate increase at the moment doesn't worry me too much, because my gut tells me it's kind of building a buffer to be able to bring it back down again. And of course, that kind of ties in with where fixed rate mortgages are at the moment. They're low for 5 years out. So it's about understanding how to position it. If you're a network marketer and you're watching this and there's been an announcement about network marketing, or somebody's read something negative about network marketing, then bring to the table an explanation, a preparation about why your business is different to this type of business. It used to be pyramid selling. Pyramid selling was basically where people would take money in with no product to sell. Oh, you get enough people in, they'll give you money, and then some of that money gets paid out. What's the product? Oh, don't worry about the product. There's no product. Just get their money in. And that is a typical classic pyramid system. It's almost like a Ponzi. Whereas network marketing, for example, actually has a product. Here's my product. It's water. So you buy the product, you sell the product on. If enough people in your network do the same thing, there's a small percentage that comes to you. That is a genuine business model. So it's knowing how to present it and explain that and anticipating what your viewer, your person that you're having a meeting with is likely to feel. And if you're concerned that it might have some nerves, best thing to do is address those right up front. And I think that's probably my last message here in this live message to all of you, is that any meeting that you have in the future with anybody, whether you're raising money for your business, whether you're trying to get your ideas across, trying to win a new customer on board, presenting a new idea to a charity, think about their concerns, about their fears, and address them in your preparation, and do it early in the presentation. Because if you leave the fear bit till the end of the presentation, all the way through, they're kind of listening to you, but they're thinking about that issue in their head. Whereas if you tackle it up front, in other words, you take the elephant out of the room and say, look, this is the situation as I see it, and this is an explanation. They go, okay. Right, so what were you saying? Okay, that makes sense. I like your product. I like your service. I like what you're offering me. I like this education, whatever it is. So be fearless, be honest, be authentic, and the people that like you, the people that relate to you, the people that like your service, your business, or whatever you're offering, they'll be the right people for you. And if they're not the right people, they're probably in the wrong headspace, and you don't want them around you anyway. And they're certainly not in a place to move on and grow themselves. And it might be that they need to go through their own personal development before they get to a space where they're ready to work with you. Okay, I've talked a lot. I better get off and start practicing for my talk tomorrow and practice what I'm preaching, which is preparation. It's Dr. Rowe signing out. Hopefully that's useful. For those of you that are wondering about the Communicating with Workshop event, I will get you the dates very shortly. We're officially going live with the promotion on that. I think it's next week, actually, so keep an eye out for that. And I'm very excited. We found a venue outside of London, which has allowed me to bring the price right down on the event compared to how we ran it last year. So that's super exciting. There might be, I don't know, we might be able to get a link on here afterwards once we've got that operational. Have a great day. See you soon.